Hi, this is Joe Valerio, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs, and you're listening to Chuck Bushbeck Live, Heart of a Champion.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Chuck Bushbeck Live, and we are honored and privileged to bring you Heart of a Champion. Those individuals who achieve excellence and clearly make a difference in our lives, and we have two of them here today. With my producer, Joe Lee, we've got another great show lined up for you, and we have the writer and also the award-winning actor from 3 Creams, Vince Bandille, and George Cameron Grant. How you doing, guys?
Doing great, Chuck. Thanks for having us.
Good, Chuck. How are you, man?
Oh, we're doing well. Now we threw George under the bus earlier because we claim he didn't know how to open up his Zoom link, but that's probably on me, and I'll take. But Vince, you're in a different predicament. You got headwinds in New York City. Haven't you guys had enough there? Haven't you been through enough?
Oh, no, I tell you, somebody breaks wind up here, we lose electricity. You know, it's crazy. I mean, it's like. We had big strong winds up here since last night, and it's been knocking out the internet, sporadically. But now, obviously, it did some major damage, and I can't get back on.
Well, Vince, the guy you claim that needs a little extra help with modern technology, he's on the show, and you're,
baby.
You know what I mean? Like George is dialing it up.
I know. Yeah, well, he outdid me. He outdid me this time.
We put the banner on it, and we're going to talk about that. But first of all, I want to congratulate both of you guys. You had an event in New York City, which we're going to talk about, where 3 Creams came away with the honor of Best Storyteller with Vince Bandille. And I want to talk to George a little bit first about the event and what was the night about for you, George, as a writer of 3 Creams? Although Vince won the award for Best Storyteller, what did that do for you as the writer of this script? And I saw the production of it. I know it very well. So can you just give us some thoughts that you have about what happened that night?
For me, it was the best thing that could have ever happened because Vince and I are always talking about the fact that we're storytellers. He's less of an actor, I'm less of a writer than we are storytellers. So for them to give us that acknowledgement could not have been a better result. That's what we do. We tell stories. We sit around the fireplace and have a bunch of people around us, and we're telling stories. So for me, as a culmination, and I do see 3 Creams as a culmination of my career to this point, it's about storytelling. You lose all the affect. You lose all the I'm a playwright, I'm a this, I'm a that, or I'm an actor, or I'm a director. And it really is about getting around the fireplace and telling a story.
So putting the titles away and just get to the meat and potatoes, and this is the story
Correct.
You want to tell. And you what an incredible performance is my understanding, Mr. Bandille, that you put on. What was that like for you? Winning that award, giving that performance, and after we've been tied in our homes for so long, and here you are in New York City, winning award right out of the gate this year.
No, that was completely unexpected. Obviously, I didn't even know that they were giving out awards, so it was certainly a shock. And I'll be very honest, I echo George's feelings that I'm always one of the things I always tell, and George can verify this. If I had to boil down what my technique is, it's you and I have discussed this, Chuck. It's first kill the playwright, right? Because you don't want to think the words are somebody else's. You sooner or later have to create the little magic of that these words are coming out of your mouth that moment. So to be able to travel this road and come up to where it is and killing the playwright and having these words feel like my own, the next step is to kill the actor. Right. So I'm always like, get rid of these labels. These labels don't do us justice, because really what, they say there's one of the oldest careers in the world. I
Yeah.
think it's storytelling. I don't think it's the other thing.
Well, I'm
You know
glad.
what
I'm
saying?
glad you didn't go the other direction there, Vince.
Right.
Well, me too. I'm sure my wife and kids are too. But the truth of it is, there's no such thing as acting. There really isn't. The idea of acting is it's a verb, and nothing comes out of this idea of this. We get up there and we go, here's a story. Get out of the way of telling the story. So it was the greatest award out of all the awards to win. I think it was perfect for us because in the award itself, there's the word story, which is George's part, and there's the word telling, which is my part.
Right.
So it's really a combination award.
George, your thoughts on Vince being on stage and winning this award? What was that night like for you?
This whole journey has become almost like a sacred pilgrimage, if I can say it that way. And as like the way, St. James, the way, and as you go along the way, you shed more and more of the things that keep you from thinking that you can do it, and then it becomes a purification. And so every performance from this point out becomes a pure performance because it's less about anything other than being in the moment and being there for the folks who are there to hear your story. So for me, it was a validation that we are on the right track. We have always been on the right track from the very first time he reached out to me November 17th, 4 years ago, and said, brother, can you write me a one-man play? And from that point on, this journey has been like that. It's been sort of a sacred mission, a pilgrimage. And for me, that performance to that moment, was the purest moment along that journey.
Yeah. Go back a little bit, George. When, excuse me, when you were growing up, was this something that appealed to you, the art of storytelling or writing, I should say? And what were some of the factors, at what age did you kind of say, hey, this is what I want to do?
Oh, it's pretty interesting because I grew up in I guess, say the Bronx, the Great Bronx Triangle.
Is that what they call it, George?
Well, I call it that, which is Poe Cottage, the home of Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, yeah,
the Lowe's Paradise, and Yankee Stadium. I mean, for me, that was to grow up in that triangle. So at age 9, well, I already had this sort of competitive ferocity because of my grandfather, George Guthrie Cameron, who was an Olympian bicyclist.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I already had that. I already had that in me. And then I discovered at the age of 9 that I lived 3 blocks away from Edgar Allan Poe's home. Okay. So at that point, I already was a big fan of his horror writing. So from that point on, I was interested in that. Of course, growing up near Yankee Stadium and basically living there, Mickey Charles Mantle was like my hero. So now I had 3 heroes. I had my grandfather, who was an Olympian, who insisted on performance and perfection. I had Mickey Mantle, and I had Edgar Allan Poe.
That's not bad.
Not bad.
That's pretty good, yeah.
So that was really the beginning of a journey, a love affair with writing, with competition, the love of competition and achievement.
So what was your first gig coming out of the box was it at a young age? You started writing a piece for a newspaper? What was it? What got you entrenched?
Well, what happened was at the age of 12, like every other young man in the world, the Beatles came out. And so music became my great, I'd say, first step in writing and a great distraction. So I fell head over heels with music, but I also began to write. I had written before based on Poe's influence. I started, like shamelessly knocking off his horror stories, then discovered his poetry, and realized that there was another Bronx connection, and that the Bells, the famous poem by Edgar Allan Poe, The Bells, was really written from the bells of Fordham University.
Right. Okay. In New York.
That was his influence. So there was another connection. So I fell in love with this sort of a sweeter side of Poe. and that really led me to my songwriting, which for the next 10 years, that's what I did. I wrote music. Okay. I couldn't read music. I couldn't understand music, but I could write it. I could create it.
Right.
And then the next diversion was I needed to get a job. I needed to do something. So I figured I can paint, I can write, and I love movies. So I found a job in movie advertising. So that poster design became my next distraction. So I designed movie posters and then ultimately theater posters. And then the greatest intervention, I'll say, came into my life. I was working on a show called Fences. It's an August Wilson play that starred James Earl Jones.
Name dropper.
And
right?
I was given the assignment of creating all the artwork for the play. Now we're talking about a Pulitzer Prize winner. This is one of the greatest plays ever written. So I designed the artwork for it, and everybody seemed to like it. And then on opening night, I got a tap on my shoulder and saying, Mr. Jones wants to see you in his dressing room. Now, for anybody in advertising, when something like that happens, it's usually not good news. That usually means you're dead.
Yeah.
That something's wrong, that name is misspelled, what have you. So I go, here's this, what the hell am I doing here? A little Bronx boy in a tuxedo that doesn't fit. So I sort of shuffle my way to the dressing room. And you have to understand who was in this dressing room. You name it, they were there. Belafonte, Ruby, forget it. And through the celebrity C parts, and there comes the great man in his robe with his massive hands. And he put him on my shoulder and he said, I want you to know something. He sounded like Darth Vader at the time. I want you to know something. When I first saw your artwork for the show, not only did I know it was right for the show, I first understood what the show was about.
Wow, what a compliment.
Now, that hit me so profoundly because I knew why I knew what to do. And that was Troy Maxon and his son from Pittsburgh was the exact same relationship I had with my father. Okay? This father and son
Right.
from the Bronx was exactly the same relationship. Exactly. And, fences, the fences that we build around us or between us. And my father and I had this massive fence between us, right? And I never knew why. He wanted me to be a ball player more than I wanted to be a ball player. And when I didn't, it crushed him. And I never really knew why until his funeral. I'm sitting there with my uncle, and we're talking about the old days, what have you. And he said, your dad was the greatest ball player I ever saw. Well, I knew he played ball because you taught me how to play ball. You taught me how to play ball better than anybody I ever knew.
Yeah.
Right. But he said, no, you see, when he played for the Cubs, and I said, what? What? He said, oh yeah, your dad. He was AAA with the Cubs. I said, he never told me that.
Yeah.
How could a father not tell his son that? And I'll tell you why. Because he was actually called up to Wrigley.
Oh, wow.
And 3 days before he went, he was playing in a game, and he was on deck circle. Guy at the plate swings at a pitch, the bat comes out of his hands and hits him right in the head.
You got to be kidding me.
Right over the eye.
Oh, my
There
gosh.
went the career. That was it. Done.
How
He was
strange.
there. He had it. He had the brass ring in his hand and was
Yeah.
taken from his hand. Now, you tell me that isn't Shakespearean. Okay, so he lived his entire life resenting that loss.
Did you feel that in your life growing up, that he resented you because of that incident or what it could be?
I think that when I turned my back on baseball,
Yeah.
he started to turn his back on me.
Yeah. Well,
And so, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Finish your story.
And I think that created this very contentious, because I never understood the depth of his disappointment, because I was good. Chuck, I'm telling you, I was good.
What
I
position did
anything
you play,
farther than
George?
anybody I knew. And pitched,
What
was
position?
a great pitcher. I
What-
did it all.
Oh, did you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're
yeah.
one of those guys.
It was easy.
Yeah.
It was easy. It was easy.
Well,
But I loved. Once I put a guitar around my neck, I was happy.
it was the guitar that made the difference, not the writing necessarily.
It was the guitar which led to the writing,
Yeah, I got you.
which fused all of it together.
Okay.
You know, the love of Poe, the love of music, the love of poetry. I mean, it all fused together.
Yeah.
And the interesting part of it was is that my playwriting began with a story that was about a Negro League superstar who couldn't make it to the big leagues. So he was so resentful, he didn't want his son to have the opportunity to succeed in the white man's world. It was that incredibly Shakespearean tension.
Very powerful.
So when I saw that play, I knew exactly what that was, and I knew the haiku image that would represent it, and that's why it worked.
Well, we had Vince on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he told a similar story about him growing up in the same way. There seems to be a commonality with people that inspires them to go do what they need to do in their life. There comes a moment in time you just know, whether it's an external experience, whether you're moved in some way. And Vince, my question is for you. As you explain you growing up, and you were very forthright about it, and it was just a commandeering moment on your part, explaining where you came from and how you overcame numerous obstacles. What was it, and can you take us back a little bit, Vince, about where you met George, and did you know all this was happening at the time, or did you learn this as you got to meet George and knew who he was as a man?
Well, I think that's the whole thing. There's this almost miraculous type of, and I don't like using those words. So, for those listening, I'm not, saying, but there was this sense of, I knew these two actors, Dominique and Mike, who said, Dominique knew of this playwriting class, and she said, actors can go for free because the playwrights needed actors to hear their work.
Yeah.
So the playwrights paid for the class, and the actors could sit in the back, and then the writers would give out their work to who they thought would best fit it. And so George was sitting in front of me. Never met him, didn't know his name, didn't know who he was. And I see him, and he looks around, he looks back at me, and he looks at the paper, and then he just hands me a piece of paper. And he goes, "Could you read this?" I said, "Sure." And I looked down, and on top of the very first thing, center of the page at the top, was the name Vin, which freaked me out. But from that point forward, George and I just kind of steamrolled into a union of putting on, almost like kids in the backyard, in the garage. They open the garage, and there's the kids, and they put on a show. But we did that in New York City, in any space we could find, So it was very interesting. We were so caught up in making art, telling stories. I never knew very much. And same with George. We didn't work at telling each other's I didn't work at telling him my past stories, and he didn't tell me his. It really came through the work. And it wasn't until maybe 5-10 years into our relationship that more came out of his past and his father, and and let me tell you something. He didn't have to tell me. Some of the monologues and some of the work I did of his, I knew what his story was, and I think he knew what mine was. So, but it wasn't until later. And I think that that's the best thing for artists to do is learn what it means to find someone's heart through their words instead of just hearing the words. Let the words be a vehicle towards compassion and understanding. And when you're in the thick of working on George's work, like Locomotives and Stiff and all the other ones, you just go, "Wow, this guy's got some freaking lot of story to tell," So,
George, we have the people that come on the show, and we call it Heart of a Champion for a reason, because as you and Vince have just explained, a lot of this comes from the heart. Does there come a time in an artist, whether it be writer, actor, what have you, that you kind of think logically and say, "Oh, I got to get a job. I got to make this amount of money. I can't make the rent. I mean, the electric bills due." How does an artist, and we know some of the stories that go along with people working their way to the top. How does an artist confront the everyday responsibilities of life and bills being paid and such. I'd like to get your take on that.
It's very difficult.
May I take the first? Okay.
Go ahead, Vince.
Well,
It's very
I'm not
difficult,
taking
Chuck.
the-
It's very difficult. It's very when you become so focused, you find that miraculously, I'll use that word again, good things come to you just when you need them.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to postpone your fate, it will flee. You have to stay focused. You have to stay tenacious. And funny thing is, the next step you do takes you. The next step after that comes to you. If you're faithful to your dream, if you're faithful to your focus, something will happen. You don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
You don't know, but something will happen. There hasn't been one show we've done, one thing we've done, where something hasn't come from it. Something good hasn't come from it. A lot of stuff you have to struggle through. You don't get the dinners out all the time. You don't get the luxuries, but you find out what you need. Like the Stones said, you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need.
Yeah.
And we stay faithful. I think it was Michael Jordan says, basketball is not a sport, it's my mistress. You stay faithful to that mistress, good things happen.
Yeah.
They do. And the next thing you need will come to you because you're loyal to your journey.
Yeah, Vince, same thing. I know you wanted to make a comment on that.
Well, I think it's a very interesting question because I've now just entered into the phase of having to. God knows I've been blessed. I've been able to work at just doing nothing but acting, and especially, over the years with 3A Creams, just really focusing in on 3A Creams. But of course, with COVID and then my wife getting a severance package from her job, being let go, and, over the years now, I had to get back to work and just to cover bills. So it's really funny because as an actor, I can't go into a company going, oh, rah, rah, sis, boom, ba. I have to go, I have to look at my day when I wake up. There's tasks, one after the other. And I don't say I go to the company and do the company tasks, and then I come home and I do my rehearsal tasks, and I do the show and I do my show tasks. My day consists of what's the next best step.
Yeah.
And I don't get caught up in the idea of oh my God, I got to make money. You can't do that. I mean, look, to be very honest, the way I see a job is you do for me what I need to do so I can get what I want at the end of this, which isn't to become CEO of your company. It's to get 3A Creams on an off-Broadway or a Broadway stage. So you have to know how to navigate that. And with a family and a home and bills, you have to, you gotta play that tightrope, and if my company turned around to me and said, look, you can't take off anymore. You're using all your PTO. I'd say, fine, well, then I got to go get another job. So you have to live in that precarious, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't settle. You can't turn around and go, I don't want to give my power away. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, I know where my power lies, and I know the truth of my power, and nothing else. The only thing I need is I need vehicles to get me to that.
Yeah.
And if a job is one of those vehicles, so be it.
George,
And you see so many courageous people out there. I mean, I think they're courageous. You go to any restaurant on 42nd Street, Theater Row, you can see all these people who are waiting on people who then, when they're done, they go in rehearsals, they go to auditions, and they just don't give up. And I think that's pretty incredible. I have great admiration for anybody who does what they have to do so they can do what they need to do. And it's pretty incredible. So next time you're out there where a waiter or waitress comes up, they're probably doing the same thing. They're courageous. They're heroes. They don't give up their dream. They go do whatever they have to do.
Yeah, George.
Vince. I'm sorry. I'll just say this real quick.
Yeah.
One of the things is, and I just for Thanksgiving, you let the team know, that they've been such supportive advocates for 3A Creams that I never realized. There's in life there is this as it should be. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you know when you're living in the moment and the moment and you and life and the universe is as it should be? That's so special. That's amazing, you know. And we all need to roll into and discover our should as it should be, you know, and not give up until we. That's where life is.
Yeah.
You know, and it's George, Debbie, Peter, Diane, Johnny, Ross. All these people have come in and out of our lives to say, no, keep going, push.
Right. And give up inordinate amounts of time, amazing amounts of time.
Right. You know, so
Amazing.
there you go. That's their passion is not something that's forced.
No.
And they're just giving us an energy that we've put out there, and they've been affected by, and they're circling it back to us, and we have to respect and be honored to be able to return it back tenfold.
Right, and they see what we see, and I think that's why they stick with us. That's why they stay with us so totally committed, and that is, they get to see what happens when Vince unfolds this story to an audience. They get to hear the silence that happens, the attention that is given to this story. They get to see what happens when the story is over, when the reactions that people have when they hear 3 Creams. They get, and that's their gospel. That's what keeps them committed and excited, because they see the effect it has on audiences time and time again. I could tell you almost down to the moment when the play is very funny at first and people are roaring. I can almost tell you exactly when it turns, and we got them. At the moment it turns, they don't breathe for the rest of that show. And so these folks who love us and who are on our team, they see that. And it becomes like a healing thing for the audience. And therefore it keeps them so riveted and committed to us because they see it every time we do it.
Yeah. Well, you George and Vince, both of you are, I would kind of say you were on the theatrical side, where the people that you're talking about are the ones that see a great project and they want to get involved, and their heart's involved in that. So here's my last question to both of you, and I want you to both answer it in your own way. And I don't want to go I can go down the rabbit hole a little bit, but there's an old phrase: the world is a stage. And I would like your take on every individual, whether it be in a theatrical performance way, the guy that Joe Plumber, as they say, the house, whatever. Do you see life as a stage for everyone living it, that they don't have to be a theatrical performer or writer or choreographer or whatever? Is everyone acting in their own life the way they see fit? George, I'm going to give that to you first.
I think that what we are for people in general now, what they're going through, the crazy 2 years we've had, I think that we can give them an oasis where they can lose this stress and lose this anger, whether it's politics or whatever it is, or just the frustration of being in a situation they've been with COVID for the past 2 years. We give them a permission to be human and not to feel anger,
that's
not
a great
to feel
way to put it.
sadness.
Yeah.
You know, we give permission to feel human. We are, I remember this old movie with Harvey Keitel from the 90s. It's not really old, but it is. It was a retelling of the tale of Ulysses in Sarajevo during the war of Sarajevo. Okay. The conceit was he was in search of a piece of celluloid that would prove that Greeks really created motion pictures. That was the retelling of the story.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget this. He was walking through the streets of Sarajevo as the bombs were being dropped. This was not set up. It was happening. He was walking through the streets of Sarajevo during this war going on all around him. And he turns a corner. And in the rubble, he sees a little troupe of actors performing Macbeth.
Get out. Oh my gosh.
Okay?
Incredible.
This is what we do. in all the rubble, in all the bombs, and all the craziness, you turn the corner, and there we are. And there's Vince performing 3 egg creams.
Well, what a great perspective. Vince, on your side?
Well, let's put it this way: as the craft and the toolbox that an actor needs is to understand the human condition. And what I've come to learn is, yes, none of us are walking around with our true faces. We're all wearing masks.
Yeah.
And in a way that there's almost a necessity to that, because we have to come in and out of different circumstances, moment to moment, practically, week, day to day, week to week living. And so we can't allow ourselves to be completely naked and vulnerable in every situation. So therefore we have to survive, and we have to create some sort of, and in that lies the actor. So in the layperson. So I'm not just this actor. We're all actors, and we all have to be actors at times. But the bravery of an actor is to do what an actor needs to do. Is he first needs to become naked and vulnerable before he enters the stage, and therefore he can become every person, he can become every man.
Wow. So
that when the audience then sees, no matter who they are and what spectrum of the population or demographic they fit, they see themselves. And if I do less than that, then it's ego. So I can't allow that to happen. And that's a tough job, because the ego wants the attention. When those lights go up, it's, hey, look at me, gang. But that's a lie. That's a lie. That's like a priest going to give communion and saying the body of Christ and thinking it's his body. That's a lie. He has to remove himself from the idea that all he is a conduit, and through that, the whatever you want to call the sacredness, the holiness, the harmonious aspect of our human value together as one world is what my job is about, and has to really make themselves. I'm a mirror, and if I put anything on that mirror other than the story, I lie.
Yeah, George. Final word.
One more thing, and I think that what I feel as a playwright, Vince, you as an actor, there is a love affair we have. The love affair is with the average person. The real heroes in this world are the ones that have to get up every day and do what they have to do, and have those struggles and have those disappointments, and no matter what, they keep going. So I feel like I've fallen in love with the struggles of the average person. And I'm so proud that struggle is in our story, that no matter what, no matter how hard he struggles, he keeps going. But guess what? If you keep going, something happens. You get a second chance. Somewhere along the line, something will happen that could change your life. And that's what keeps everybody going.
Wow. George, I was going to say your final thoughts, but I think you just provided them for us all.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chuck. And we have a very special piece that really it's not our piece. It's the audience. It belongs to the audience. It's written for them. It belongs to them. We love these people who come to see the show. We love to think that when they leave, they're different than when they came in. Right. All that stuff we say, leave your guns, your politics, your religion at the door. Everybody is welcome. I mean that. Everybody is welcome. And we like to think that when they leave that stage, they leave that theater, maybe you don't need to pick up that gun anymore. Maybe you don't need to pick up the political anger and the resentment. And if they can cry with people in the same theater, it's harder to dislike somebody you share an emotion with. It's harder to hate somebody you feel compassion with.
Hence the art of storytelling.
Exactly.
Correct.
That's where we're in the business.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, I am so grateful of your contributions from both of your roles as a writer and also an actor, Vince. We enjoy having people as yourselves on the show that give us insight into maybe some of the trades that we're not used to hearing about. And it's great to hear your hearts, because that's what this is about, Heart of a Champion, right? So, Vince and George, I
bet.
thank you so
Well-
much for being on the show. Go ahead, Vince.
No, I was going to say thank you so much. I think that's perfect the way you put it. That's great.
Well, I'm looking for someone
Heart
to
of a
hire me.
champion. Heart of a champion is a champion across the board. Actor, football player,
Right.
accountant. So.
Well,
And one last thing, I am Spartacus.
you saw my shirt. Yeah, that's another story we'll get into another time when I get
Yes.
up to New York and they let us kind of meet and without all the craziness going on. But
Exactly.
but thank you guys, and that will do it for today. I would like to thank our guests from 38 Creams, actor Vince Bandille and playwright George Cameron Grant for coming on the show. For our producer Joe Lee, our executive producers Jim Sims and CJ DeRoma, I am Chuck Bushbeck. Thank you for watching Chuck Bushbeck Live. And as these two guys will just tell you, they have a heart of a champion. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page and consider supporting us on Patreon at the link in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time on Chuck Bushbeck Live. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.